Mexican immigration to the U.S. skyrocketed in the 1910s and 1920s. As a result, in the early 1900s, segregation against Mexican Americans was more prominent than ever. In this time period, Mexican Americans were segregated in Southern California in various public facilities like swimming pools, movie theaters, and residential communities. In 1910, a proposition to establish separate schools for Mexicans in New Mexico caused outrage and confusion. Nevertheless, throughout the early 1900s, segregated schools for Mexicans became increasingly widespread. As a result, various court cases and movements began taking place. In Colorado in 1914, a court case took place to integrate Mexican Americans into the standard schooling system. In 1919, Mexican Americans protested due to alleged segregation of kids in an LA school. However, the segregation of schools went on. By the 1940s, 80% of Mexican children in California went to separate schools. A major reason for this was that many Mexican Americans were stereotyped to be influent to English. Though many Mexican children could indeed speak English very well, they were put into Mexican schools with inferior facilities, underqualified teachers, and more crowded classes. In the midst of these tough times for Mexican Americans in America, Gonzalo and Felicitas Mendez leased and moved into a farm in Westminster, California. Gonzalo was a Mexican who immigrated to California at just 7 years of age. Felicitas was Puerto Rican, who immigrated to Arizona at 10 and just 6 months later to California. The two married in 1935, when Gonzalo was 23 and Felicitas was 20. Before moving into the farm in Westminster, they had saved up enough money through farm labor, relocated to Santa Ana, and leased the farm. In 1944, Sylvia Mendez, Gonzalo and Felicitas' daughter, went with her aunt, Soledad Sally Vidauri, her siblings, and her cousins to enroll in the local school. The school rejected Sylvia and her siblings, for they were of Mexican descent. However, since Sylvia's aunt, Sally, had married a Mexican-French man named Frank Vidauri, the school allowed her children to enroll. In response to this outrage, Sally rejected and abruptly said, "We're going home." Upon reaching, she told Gonzalo about the situation. Gonzalo felt that it was the government's responsibility to provide all of its citizens with equal opportunities, and he perceived his right to stand for this case. As a result, this rejection from the white school fueled the determination that led to the groundbreaking court case.
Sylvia Mendez was just 9 years old when her family began their case, which exposed clear examples of prejudice and unfair treatment towards students of Mexican descent. At the time, Mexican Americans were legally considered white under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Despite this, schools started unofficially separating Mexican American students because white parents opposed integration, barring them from attending schools with white students and better facilities.
Gonzalo and Felicitas Mendez hired a lawyer named David Marcus to represent them. They gathered together and worked with 4 other families facing the same problem in nearby districts. On March 2, 1945, these families from Orange County, including the Mendez family, filed a petition against 4 local school districts. Members from other families include Thomas Estrada and William Guzman from Santa Ana, Frank Palomino from Garden Grove, and Lorenzo Ramirez from Orange. The petition alleged that 4 Orange County schools segregated students of Mexican and Latino descent, violating the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. According to Sylvia Mendez, Gonzalo Mendez's daughter, their family attorney, David Marcus, advised Gonzalo not to pursue the case solely for his children, but rather for all children.
Gonzalo Mendez paid out of his own pocket to help the other families take part in the lawsuit. Many were afraid they would lose their jobs if they went to court, so Gonzalo gave them money to make up for the wages they might lose, ensuring their support in the case.
On the same day of the petition, a summons was issued to the school districts, requiring them to respond to the petition within 20 days, about 3 weeks. On April 4, 1945, the Orange County Council requested the judge to dismiss the case, claiming that the court lacked jurisdiction over the matter. The school districts supported this claim, but despite their efforts, the trial was scheduled for July 4, 1945, in the U.S. District Court for Southern California. During the trial, attorneys David Marcus and Thurgood Marshall employed an innovative strategy, presenting social science evidence to support their argument. Their strategy was crucial in the litigation. They claimed that segregated schools instilled feelings of inferiority in Mexican American students, impeding their ability to become productive Americans. Additionally, they argued that segregation in Orange County schools violated the 14th Amendment. U.S. District Judge Paul J. McCormick agreed, ruling against the discriminatory practices and mandating their cessation. Judge McCormick wrote, "The equal protection of the laws pertaining to the public school system in California is not provided by furnishing in separate schools the same technical facilities, textbooks, and courses of instruction to children of Mexican ancestries that are available to other public school children regardless of their ancestry. A paramount requisite in the American system of public education is social equality. It must be open to all children by a unified school association regardless of lineage." On March 30th, 1946, the defendants representing the Orange County schools filed a notice of appeal indicating their intent to challenge the ruling in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. However, on February 25, 1947, the Ninth Circuit upheld Judge McCormick's decision, concluding the case. 2 months later, California Governor Earl Warren signed a bill ending school segregation in the state, making California the first state to abolish segregation in the schools.
The Mendez v. Westminster case paved the way for many advancements in equality by race because it affected landmark cases like Brown v. Board of Education and other civil rights movements. This led to equality everywhere else in the nation, especially education, therefore making it one of the most influential court cases of the mid-20th century. Mendez v. Westminster was crucial in testing the legal strategies used in Brown. It was also crucial in shaping the ideas of a young NAACP lawyer, Thurgood Marshall. Thurgood Marshall even used the same tactic of employing social science evidence in the Brown v. Board of Ed case. Finally, the case later allowed Thurgood Marshall to effectively destroy the separate but equal doctrine, which allowed segregation, but only as long as the quality of the facilities were equal for both races. Furthermore, Mendez established a crucial precedent that school segregation based on ethnicity was unconstitutional. This decision influenced many court cases and vital decisions, inspired peaceful protests, and marked a significant victory in the civil rights movement. Due to its importance, it changed the course of racial equality, especially in education, across the country and the world.
Thankfully, the case inspired many movements, and through protests and laws, things began to improve. One key movement was the East LA walkouts, during which nearly 20,000 students protested their dissatisfaction with the education they were forced to receive. This movement was inspired by the Mendez v. Westminster case. Hispanic students who began schooling after Mendez took effect remained in school a year longer than students who began earlier. The students were 18.4% more likely to graduate from middle school and 19.4% more likely to graduate from high school. Unfortunately, the Mendez v. Westminster court case has fallen into the realm of forgotten history. It is overshadowed by its more famous counterpart, Brown v. Board of Education. In the face of this injustice, we must ask ourselves, what would happen without the influence of this case? Would Earl Warren be able to write the Brown v. Board majority opinion without Mendez's example? Would Thurgood Marshall have the knowledge he needed to win Brown v. Board without his experience in Mendez v. Westminster? Both cases were a huge breakthrough in civil rights and integration, but Mendez v. Westminster was a trailblazing case, and so it should get the same amount of attention as its counterpart. The Mendez v. Westminster court case was one of the most influential of the 20th century, changing our lives through civil rights movements, laws, and a growing sense of respect for our fellow man. It has inspired many people and significantly shifted our country's perspective on racial segregation for the better.